This is PWF Empire Live.
It's the best thing going today.
The best insight and analysis on the hottest topics in the world of wrestling happens here. From storylines and news to rumors and reviews, we've got the action covered from bell to bell.
What are you guys?
Presented by PWFempire.com with your hosts,
Steven,
Evan Medina, and J-Dub.
do I have everybody's attention now?
The match starts now.
PWF Empire is live. Thank you all for tuning in this Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Jay, and my co-hosts for the evening, or my co-hosts always, Steven and Evan. What's up, guys?
And if you can't keep a pre-New Year's resolution, I don't know how you're going to deal with the New Year's resolution, because you haven't worn the New Day shirt in a week now.
See, I totally forgot about it. I totally forgot about it, but I'm glad that you reminded me, but it's not much that I can do about it right now, because this is the last episode of the year, so...
Well, now you're going to have to wear it for all of 2016.
Yeah, and that'll be just like most other folks' New Year's resolutions. You'll do it for a few days and then forget about it, as the year rolls on. So, yeah, I'll do that. That's my New Year's resolution.
I think I'll have to make a similar resolution. I picked up the New Day shirt myself. So
nice.
I'm not the only.
Snap.
Yeah, now you're not the only one here, Jay. But I don't know if I can handle going all year with wearing that shirt. That would take a lot. And I don't want the color to fade. It's got a nice blue color to it. I feel like
That is
if
a nice color.
after washing it enough times, all of a sudden it's gonna be all faded, and so I don't know, man. I'm gonna save it for special shows, I think.
I mean, you do have the option to not wash it, That's
Yeah,
the thing. If the color means that much to you, but that brings on its own set of issues.
Yeah, I think those issues are a little worse than the fading of the color, so I'm going to go ahead and wash it. But
Alrighty, guys, we have a jam-packed show from front to back this evening for you all. Of course, we're going to be talking about all of the events from Monday Night Raw, the big things that happened on that show. One of those big things being Vince McMahon getting arrested and booked, paid his bail, released, all within the span of a Monday Night Raw episode. Like, if that doesn't tell you guys that Monday Night Raw is too damn long, I don't know what will. But yeah, we got that to talk about. We also have another edition of Push Repackage Release, and we have a very interesting twist on this one. This is a themed episode of Push Repackage Release, so you guys have that to look forward to. Also, Steven is back, so we will be having that discussion about wrestling and its relation to, creating stars and things like that, and we're going to be having this conversation on the foundation of a recent movie that was released in theaters by the name of Creed. It's a spin-off of the Rocky series, the boxing movie series, and we'll be talking about that tonight and a few more things. Rock is going to be at WrestleMania 32. I'm going to be at WrestleMania 32 as well. I'm quite sure we'll be doing different things. He'll be doing whatever it is that he's doing, and I'll be watching whatever it is that he's going to be doing, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, we're going to get this show started off discussing Roman Reigns, WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the chairman of the board, the CEO of WWE, the power broker, the man in WWE. He was arrested, quote unquote, in the middle of the ring. And yeah, this was an interesting way to kick off Monday Night Raw. I love those times where you have people in distress, and there are people who come from backstage and they don't come out until their music plays. I found that very funny on Raw. You had Vince McMahon. He was screaming that his neck was hurting after Roman Reigns pushed him. And Stephanie, her 70-year-old father, in the middle of the damn ring, possibly injured, did not come to his assistance until after her music played.
No, it's not.
That always kills me.
It's not that she was waiting for the music. It's that her foot has like this silver thing on it that interacts with the Titantron, and when she moves past, the entrance music plays. I don't know if anyone gets that reference.
I definitely get that. Those little action figures back in the day, I had those. I wore those damn things out, man. With the little Titantron set up, and yeah, that was good stuff. But yeah, you guys have any thoughts on what happened to kick off Monday Night Raw?
I don't understand this. I really don't get this segment. I don't get this whole angle at all.
I personally thought it was pretty funny when Vince was like, "Oh, my neck." It was probably it was Vince being Vince, and I couldn't help but chuckle. I think I got a few laughs out of the opening segment, even though I didn't really think it had much of a purpose, and I didn't really like it, and I more or less was left scratching my head because I think there was part of the point I thought was supposed to have Reigns be involved, but I felt like the segment was so focused on Vince being arrested and taken away that you pretty much forget that Roman Reigns was the focal point of the segment in the beginning.
Yeah, he was just a bystander. He was just, I was like, okay, is he going to do anything? Like, what does this mean for Roman Reigns? And I didn't really get that answer. I guess maybe I got the answer, but it just wasn't a satisfactory answer to me. It's like, this was his way of embarrassing the McMahon family, but it just didn't have that pop for me.
Sure, but he didn't do it though, because what did he do exactly?
Yeah, he kind of just smiled and stood there and was like, "Okay, like you're embarrassing yourself." I mean, it's like
I thought Roman was good in this segment. He didn't really talk. He did improv, which I thought was good. Like the crowd was chanting, "We can't hear you," and he's basically like, "Looks like they can't hear you, old man," and I thought that was really good. And then he's holding the mic to the police guy when he's reading off his rights.
Yeah, that was kind of funny too, because the guy was going off the lines. He's like, "You have the right to remain silent," and Roman Reigns is like in the background. That was he was cool there.
Yeah, it was cool. Good, but like I don't get what this is. I like usually when they do a segment that I don't like or get, I at least can see what they're trying to accomplish. I don't see what they're trying to accomplish here unless it's part of a larger storyline. Like maybe Vince is losing control of his company and they're trying to show us that he's like kind of losing his authority. If that's the case, then maybe I get it, but I don't know if they're going that route. Was this to get Roman over? Because if it was, didn't really do that. I thought they brought in Vince McMahon to help get Roman Reigns over, but this didn't really have much to do with him.
Yeah, it felt more like a Vince McMahon segment than anything else.
Going back to what I was talking about, like I think this is like the mounting embarrassment for Roman Reigns, or for the McMahon family as dealt by Roman Reigns, because this guy, they concoct this plot to get him out of the company. They were going to fire him and everything, but he ended up making that plan crumble. He's now the WWE World Heavyweight Champion after kicking Triple H's ass, and now he is... at least WWE wants us to believe that he's responsible for Vince McMahon going to jail and things like that. So it looks to me as if they're kind of like building up this animosity between Roman Reigns and the McMahons. But the reason why it's not working for me is because we had that great moment at TLC with Roman Reigns showing all of that aggression and that fire and that intensity, and now he's flipped over and he's like, cool daddy-o now, and he's laughing at the McMahon's expense and things like that. Like, I want to see this guy be challenged. I want to see, I want to see more in the form of opposition to Roman Reigns, and I don't think that that's going to happen until Triple H gets back, because when that happens, I know all hell is going to break loose. So I guess this is them still trying to it's weird because they're booking him like a top guy while at the very same time still trying to establish who he is. So we're in like this weird situation right now, but I don't know, like that's what I'm waiting on right now until Triple H gets back, because I know that's when it's gonna hit the fan.
Yeah, it's weird like how they're booking this. There's still quite a few weeks away until the Rumble. Is he facing Triple H at the Rumble? I don't know. Probably, right? I mean, looks like he's not facing Sheamus.
Yeah, because with them booking Sheamus for next week, hell, I didn't want to see that one again. Like, I was perfectly fine, no, rematch clause, you want to forget about it, I'll forget about it too. Because, hey, Sheamus, I actually mentioned this on Twitter, Sheamus was very calm for someone who just lost the championship, and I guess he realized, just like the rest of us, he shouldn't have been anywhere near it, and he's like, okay, I lost it, I'll accept that, I'm fine.
Well, apparently because he was in a 6-man tag that had nothing to do with really anything, and real, like, I mean, he kind of, he was basically dealing with League of Nations issues throughout the whole night. He didn't really have anything to do with Roman Reigns at all. And then all of a sudden Vince is just like, oh, by the way, like, you're the guy who had the belt, so I'm going to give you another shot at the title, when honestly it's like he could have given that shot to anybody in the League of Nations and it wouldn't have been that much different, really. I mean,
Sheamus has his rematch, so.
Yeah, that's really the only thing left. But, I mean, other than that, there's really, like, no reason for Sheamus to even be involved in it. But I'll say this much. Vince McMahon being the special referee does at least make me think, okay, they could have Triple H come in here. They could do something interesting next week. So, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to use the words looking forward to it, but I'm anticipating what they will do on the first Raw of 2016. So at least it gives you a little something leaves a little to the imagination. I mean, they could go the predictable route, but, you know, maybe they won't. And,
what's the predictable route? Is it just Reigns retaining?
Yeah, I'd say probably, like, you know, Vince getting...
I think that's the best, like, the predictable route in
this
case is the only acceptable route.
No,
we want to see Sheamus winning.
No. I'm not saying that Sheamus winning would be the alternative. I'm more or less saying, like, there could be Triple H involvement. There could be something else that they can do along with it that could spice it up and at least get you ready for Royal Rumble, if that's where they're going to go. I mean, I don't really know who Reigns is going to face if it's not Sheamus again, and I don't want to see Sheamus and Reigns again anyway, so I'm hoping Triple H actually is his opponent at Royal Rumble. Like, it would be better suited for WrestleMania because it's such a big match, but it almost needs to happen at Royal Rumble now because then there's so much time in between.
Yeah.
There's no way it could happen at WrestleMania because
there's too much going on for Roman Reigns for WrestleMania. I have plans, and you know, as much as I want to see Triple H versus Roman Reigns, like, people have been planting seeds in my head, and I can't get them out. Like, they're growing right now, and yeah, I see three potential opponents for. See, we'll talk about this. I
think I know what you're thinking about right now.
Yeah, no, this is some crazy stuff going on, man.
No,
this is like, it's crazy up here. But if it's not Sheamus at the Royal Rumble, it has to be Triple H. Like, what if this happens? Like, next week, because we're wondering, how do we get out of this situation? Because Vince McMahon is the special guest referee, and hell, he could do whatever he wants to in the match next week. And, like, I'm figuring something has to happen to where Roman Reigns retains the championship, but still he gets his just desserts. What if Triple H comes back, pedigrees Sheamus, says, fuck you, fuck your rematch, you don't touch this title. If anybody's going to take this title from Roman Reigns, it's going to be me.
100% fine with that. I love it. So that's so much better to me than just having Reigns just retain. Like, don't give us that. Like, I don't, like, of course he should retain, and I don't see why he wouldn't anyway. So give us something dynamic. Do something a little different. Have Triple H appear on this show. I think it's about time Triple H comes back. I really do think first Raw of the year, main event, big segment. I mean, he could really get that retaliation against Reigns, make a statement, whatever it be. It can really be that building, that first real building block to set up that match for Royal Rumble. And I think that would be the perfect way to do it. It would be the first time that I've actually, you know, felt, oh wow, I'm looking forward to Royal, like, that's the first sign of build to Royal Rumble, and that's good because you really want to get going on that, but by the time the first Raw of the year starts. So I think that's really important to get 2016 off on any sort of the right foot right now for WWE, especially considering 2015 and its lack of consistency or direction. So I think that would be really nice.
I almost thought Vince was going to die in this segment because, like, he always dies. Not like real, like,
or Mr. McMahon.
Yeah. I thought, like, it's kind of overdue for Vince to die on TV again. Like, it's happened several times now, right?
Thought they were going to get a wheelchair for him.
That reminds me of General Hospital, Helena Cassadine. She's died tons of times, you know. It's like a, you know, it happens every now and again, you know. Vince, or excuse me, Mr. McMahon, it's probably his time again, too. So we have Charlie in the chat. Former PWF Empire Live co-host here, saying there's zero reason for Reigns to not be cool right now. Nobody should give him that threat at the moment. And this is something that I want to discuss also, because I 100% agree with this, but it's just that I have that idea of Roman Reigns versus Triple H in my head, and I want to get to that. And I'll fully admit that it's me not being patient, because I kind of like what's going on, but I want to see like some more fire. Like, I want to see Triple H at the very least attempt to get that revenge on Roman Reigns, because I know when Roman Reigns is going to be at his best when he has a great adversary to go up against, and when Roman Reigns has that opportunity to show that aggression. And he's been showing a lot of aggression recently, and I've heard some things because people like, here's the thing. We have a lot of folks complaining about Roman Reigns booking because it seems as if this guy is on the top of the world right now. No heel can touch him. And we see him running through Sheamus. We see him running through the other members of the League of Nations. Do you all see Roman Reigns and his relation to the heels in WWE right now as an issue?
Not really, because it's a necessary part of getting him over, because they have to put him against all these unlikable heels in order for to get people to cheer him.
Yeah, and that's another. I mean, when you have what you have in WWE right now, there's really not a whole lot of room for. It's like, what's the lesser of two evils? I mean, would you rather have Roman Reigns not get over properly, or would you rather have a bunch of heels who are, not, you can't really be taken seriously? I mean, I'm gonna go with, I want Roman Reigns to get over. So, and it's not, I will say, like, it still impedes his progress of getting over to the fullest extent, because if he doesn't have truly good heels and truly good adversaries to face, he'll never be as great as he can be. But he's still gonna be good. He's still gonna be, stand above the rest. So, I mean, I don't think it affects him enough, but it does obviously impede your progress to a certain extent. But that's why Triple H returning is such a necessary thing right now, because he is that, like, it might sound weird because he doesn't even wrestle very much, but he's still a bigger threat and a bigger heel and a bigger deal than any of those guys on the active roster right now. So as soon as he comes back, you're instantly way more interested in the WWE title picture and in Roman Reigns in the way that he's handled and booked going forward.
I pretty much 100% agree with every single thing that you said right there. Like, I'm really looking forward to Triple H getting back and Roman Reigns getting that legitimate threat, because it doesn't do him any favors at all to look at somebody like a Sheamus, or even hell, the whole League of Nations put together, as a legit threat for Roman Reigns, because they're simply not at that level. And when you put them in situations where they're getting the best of Roman Reigns, all that does is equal them out. It may bring them up a little bit, but it's pulling him down as a result. And there's not much that you can do to get Roman Reigns over when you're bringing him down to the level of someone else to accomplish that. Like, that doesn't make much sense to me. And, Roman Reigns right now, he's being booked like a top guy. And I think so many people have forgotten what that's like, because we've had John Cena on top for so long. And oh my God, like, man, I've been reading the message boards and comment sections on wrestling news sites, and people in this damn fear mongering, like, they are trying to force us to believe that WWE is booking Roman Reigns. Like, I've heard this so many times. What's the difference between Roman Reigns and John Cena? He's going to kick out at 2 and kick out of finishers and things like that. They're booking him like a damn top guy. Okay. There were top guys that existed before John Cena. That was a thing before John Cena came onto the scene. And the way that I see it, like, shit, he's not John Cena at all. If anything, shit, they're trying to book him like Stone Cold.
Exactly.
That's who they're booking him like.
Exactly. Look at all the situations he's in with McMahon and all this. This screams Austin booking. Like, somebody joked even after last night, what's Austin gonna do next week on Raw when Vince is the special guest referee? Like, because it does feel like something out of that era more so than it does out of this one. And let's not forget, Austin overcame a lot of obstacles that were thrown in front of him too. But the thing is, it was for a much shorter period of time, and I think that's why people always associate John Cena as being, like, to them it's over the top. It seems over the top because it's been put in your face for 10, 12 years, whereas Austin was only a couple of years. Most of the top guys were only for a few years' time. It was never as long as Cena. Cena has been on top longer than anybody. So I think that's why people are worried that he'll be in the same boat. But I don't think he's being booked like that either. I think there's been signs of it at times, but right now, and this has been some of the best booking he's had the last couple of months especially, it's been really good stuff. And I think that anybody who's not seeing it that way is just worried that he's going to end up in down that same path as Cena. And they're looking too far ahead of it instead of just looking at right here, right now.
Yeah, if they're worried that he's gonna be booked like John Cena, like just chill out. We got what 9 more years to go. Like, calm
John
down.
Cena's still around too, so there's no reason.
Yeah, so that time is gonna
Exactly.
keep increasing. So
John
yeah,
Cena's not
like,
even done yet. He still has like 3 or 4 more title reigns left in him.
Alrighty then. So next up, we are going to move on to the buy or sell segment. First up, we have, speaking of John Cena, he faced The Rock 2 times at WrestleMania, and The Rock will be at this next WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, Texas. I want to do a buy or sell right now on if you guys believe that The Rock will be wrestling at this next WrestleMania. So, buy or sell The Rock in a match at WrestleMania.
I think he will be. I think if he's gonna be there on that day, then he's gonna wrestle. There's still a possibility that he might not. I guess it depends on his movie schedule and like, do they want him risking his body? Maybe he has to do some sort of stunt work. I don't know how that goes down. I don't really know what The Rock does in his movies, but I see him wrestling because wasn't that the plan originally? Wasn't he gonna wrestle at 32? And then something came up, and then it looks like he's back on again.
Yeah, I think like there were rumors of him competing in a match, and then it's like something that came up with the movies, and it's like, oh, The Rock isn't going to be at WrestleMania 32, but then he makes this announcement, and yeah, apparently he is. So it's like if that barrier is broken down, could possibly him competing in a match, could that be broken down too? And it actually happens.
If not, then then there's always a segment with Stone Cold because obviously he's gonna be there for sure. He's not gonna wrestle, but he'll be there, right? It's in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you would think. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm gonna go with buy that he's gonna wrestle. I do think so because the way they, at least right now, I feel like that would be their plan because of the way they're advertising it. I feel like if he was just appearing, you know how these last couple years he's appeared and they didn't really advertise it beforehand. It was kind of just like, oh, Rock's here, like this is cool. Whereas the years he's wrestled, it's been advertised ahead of time. I think the only year that it wasn't was 27, and that was when he was hosting. So it was he still had a bigger role in the show, I guess you could say, even though it wasn't that big of a role. But either way, I'm going to say he does wrestle. Now, who his opponent is, again, we could ponder this forever. I mean, there's always going to be the Brock Rock rumor. That's always been thrown out there. Again,
I really don't want to see that.
I know, man. I'm with you. But, I mean, that is definitely a possibility.
That one is weird because it's like, from WWE's perspective, I understand why they would want to do that match because it's like you have 2 big names in the wrestling industry in and of itself. Then you had, like, these 2 people left the wrestling industry and went on to become even bigger stars. The Rock in Hollywood, Brock Lesnar in the UFC. So this is a match that if it wasn't actual wrestlers, it could never happen. A UFC star versus, one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. Like, that's a big money match that I can imagine. It's very marketable.
It is, but I don't want to see it. And it's like it's good in the short term. Like they would make a lot of money off of that, but I don't know if it's good in the long term because 2 part-time guys, like who does it benefit in the long run?
Yep.
Yeah,
so
like
do you want to get paid now or do you want to get paid later?
Yeah, it's like I understand why they would want to do that match, but yeah, I don't want to see it either.
I'm in the same boat. Like, I wouldn't want to see it, even though, like, I mean, I'm not going to reject the match and be like, oh, this is terrible. Like, I would look forward to it, but it's not.
I probably would as well.
But it's not my.
Undertaker versus Brock to me. Like, I didn't want to see it, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's like it's not my first
choice,
option.
you would go with something else, but
sure.
Yep. I'm not getting up and going to the bathroom while it's on.
Exactly, yeah. It's still a match. I'm like, oh, okay, this will be fun, but I'd still choose something else. But I'm gonna buy that he does wrestle again. It's hard to say. I'd like to see him wrestle someone, a current on the roster.
I say Bray Wyatt would be a great opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody like that.
Roman Reigns. I don't know if you were thinking of that, Jay.
Bray Wyatt. That seems like a mismatch to me.
Are you serious?
Bray Wyatt and The Rock.
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know how good that would be for Bray Wyatt because The Rock would make him look like a fucking fat ass neck beard. Like thrown out.
Yeah,
there.
he'd get buried again.
The Rock would roast his ass. Like,
I'd like to
very
see him
severe.
face. I'd like to see him face like a Kevin Owens. I think that'd be a fucking good match.
Oh, that would be cool
But-
too. I didn't even think of that.
That's
Yeah, they're
just my
buddies
pick.
too. Yeah.
Be
The Rock and
interesting,
Kevin
huh?
Owens.
That'd be something.
I'm gonna buy The Rock wrestling at WrestleMania. There's just something that makes me feel like, because just like what you were saying, Evan, there were times where it wasn't announced and he just was at the show. Like, I have to believe that he's gonna play some type of big role in this WrestleMania, and wrestling in a match, I'm down for it. One thing that I've heard, and they actually teased this, I believe it was on an episode of SmackDown, The Rock versus Triple H. Now,
I want to see that
throwback.
even less. The Brock versus Rock. Oh, man,
But
this
is it one of those ones where you're like, I'll still...
No, it'd still be good. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But I don't want to see it.
Like, I just don't know what he could possibly do at this show. Because, Triple H is a possibility.
Really? I see a lot of possibilities. I think he could do something with Reigns if they want. Although that probably wouldn't be a good idea. Unless Reigns...
See, I told you, I got plans, man.
All right. Well, that's what I
got
thought.
plans.
They could do... Like I think Bray Wyatt would be a good opponent. They could do... If they're planning on getting Wyatt over, which doesn't look like they are. He gets other people over, apparently. But,
Yeah, no. Strike 3, strike 4, strike 5. Yeah, no, he's. I don't see him climbing out of that hole yet.
Yeah, Kevin Owens is another good one, like Evan said. He could do John Cena part 3. I'm just kidding.
Oh God.
Wait, did they do 3 matches or did they do 2 matches?
Two.
That's right. Yeah.
Once in a
Thankful.
lifetime. Twice.
A part 3
Ooh.
will happen. Don't like mistake it. It's gonna happen. Someday, somewhere down the line. If it's 10 years, it might happen.
Okay, so one of my favorite matches of the year was Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch from an edition of NXT TakeOver. We got to see a rematch between these two under different circumstances on Monday Night Raw in Brooklyn. And when they were in Brooklyn, the crowd, it's so funny, they chant, "We want Sasha." They get Sasha, and then they chant "boring" at the match.
It's
Becky
different.
Lynch
You have to
versus...
remember, it's different people. Like, I doubt there's a big overlap between the people who were chanting "We want Sasha."
No. See, the crowd, like, people talk about the crowd like it's some omnipotent
Well, it's
being.
not, though.
So,
Like, that's what you have to remember. It's not.
no, it is. Like, every time I write the crowd, I always put the C in crowd in capital because, it's the crowd. The crowd is like Big Brother. It's always watching, always there. So, the crowd. They chanted "boring" at Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. So, do you buy or sell the reaction from the crowd to this match on Monday Night Raw?
I think I see. I don't know for sure, but I think the reaction was geared towards a certain point in the match that actually was quite boring. Like, if I'm being honest, there was a part during this match where like they just were barely moving. They were just kind of like putting each other in submissions, and things weren't really going anywhere. I still wouldn't have chanted that, but I don't know for sure if they're directing it at the whole match. I think it just.
See,
went
my
in
thing
that
is,
part.
my response to that would be, there are slow moments that come in some matches, and people don't automatically chant "boring" at them, because if they are invested in those matches and they're invested in the competitors, then they'll give them an opportunity to gear up to that next level
that's
because
true.
they
Yeah,
know
you're
something good is coming in. I don't
Yep.
think that the crowd gave them that opportunity.
Because
Yeah.
those same people who are chanting "boring" will call matches that have slow moments in it some of the best of all time. Like, I mean, we could even go back to that Bayley versus Sasha Iron Woman match that just happened, and there was slow moments in that, and yet no one was chanting "boring." And we can go to matches that were on bigger stages, like even Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior WrestleMania 6 had slow moments in it, yet it's still one of my favorite matches. And nobody was chanting anything boring. No one was leaving that match. People revere that as one of the greatest of all time. I'm just using examples. But for the reaction here, I'm obviously going to sell it. I honestly was pissed off at this crowd for that reason. Like, screw you. Like, before the match, they're chanting, or even during the match, they're chanting NXT, and they're chanting for the women, and they're, like, loving it, that they're loving that they're getting time. That's all they want. And then they're chanting "boring" in the same match. It's like, just like, give me a break. I mean, it wasn't as good as their match in NXT, don't get me wrong, but it was still a solid match, and I appreciate so much that they gave them time, and I appreciate so much that they actually tried to tell some semblance of a story with them, even if it was minor, even if it was just, Team Bad being at ringside and getting involved. And but I got more out of Becky Lynch on this night on her main roster run. I got more out of her in this night than I have any other time since she's been on the main roster, because I got that little interview beforehand that was excellent. And Sasha, even though she was using the hometown stuff and it's cliche, it actually was working for her. She makes it work. She makes everything work. So and they made the match work. I really liked it, and it was much better than a lot of the Divas stuff we get on the main roster. So yeah, I'm gonna sell that reaction big time.
Yeah, I'm going to sell the reaction from the crowd also, because I've been noticing some changes in the Divas division on the main roster ever since, I believe it was the night after Survivor Series, where Paige and Charlotte had that rematch. And like, I've been noticing they've actually been telling stories in the Divas division. And I looked at that match that they had, Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. That was a huge platform for Becky Lynch, and I saw the emergence of a legit babyface, like someone that I actually wanted to root for, because they told a logical and they told a consistent story leading into that match. And the way that the story was executed in that match, I was just rooting for her, and I was like, if she gets this win here, this is going to be by far her biggest win, probably her only win. I'm quite sure she's won some matches, but point is, I can't remember them, so they weren't that important. With this one here, I was looking at this match like, if she gets this damn win here, it's going to be the biggest moment that she's had on the main roster, because she was fighting through all of that adversity with Team Bad at ringside and things like that, and her being without Charlotte and all of the conflict that's going on between her, like that internal conflict of the friendship between her and Charlotte. So a lot was going on in that moment, and I was actually really invested in the story that was being told in this match. And the fact that she had the rug snatched from under her when everything was said and done, like, I actually felt sympathy for her, and I'm interested to see where it goes from this point on. So I thought it was a match with some good action and a great way that the story was executed. So I buy the match and I sell the reaction from the crowd. Okay, we talked about on the show last week John Cena's return to WWE. We were buying or selling the excitement, about just his impending return, but now the return has happened, and I'm going to revisit the subject of John Cena. Do you buy or sell him being in a match for the United States Championship with Alberto Del Rio, everything that happened with him on Monday Night Raw? Buy or sell John Cena's return?
Oh yeah, I buy it. I think this guy should be near the U.S. title again. Like, he made that title something, and Del Rio did not continue that legacy. It was such a wasted opportunity to have Del Rio beat this guy clean. Like, that was, out of all Cena's losses, that was the one that did the least for anyone. Even the Great Khali got more out of beating Cena than this guy did. So, yeah, I wanted him to get it back. I was pissed off that he didn't. I'm sure he's going to. He's going to destroy the League of Nations. Because, they were formed to get Reigns over, but Cena's going to be the one to take them down because they're not American. He's like the American guy. So he's going to knock him down probably fairly soon. So, yeah, I buy it. And I hope he brings back the U.S. Open Challenge, and I hope he actually gets around to putting someone over who could use it.
Yeah, Cena is a great equalizer when it comes to these makeshift heels and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Mark Henry, R-Truth, Nexus. Yeah, just put them up.
And these guys, people don't like them so much that they're actually chanting for Cena in Europe. So they're actually fairly good heels in that regard, if you want to go by that.
By the standard definition, yeah.
They got John Cena over.
I don't want to go by that.
That's a huge accomplishment.
I agree,
but
Jay.
yeah.
I don't want to go by that either. I think they are terrible, and I can't stand the League of Nations, but not for the heel reason.
Cena's return. I'm going to buy John Cena's return. I thought that the whole setup, because I was wondering why the United States Championship wasn't on the line, and it made a lot of sense that Alberto Del Rio is a heel. He just didn't want to put it on a damn line, but John Cena goaded him into doing it, and I found myself just like hanging off of John Cena's every word because I was just so glad to see him back in WWE, and he's done a lot of good work with mid-carders this year, and I mean, you know, now he's working with the mid-card mafia, so that's a match made in heaven right there. So, of course, I'm going to buy this.
Yeah, for the overall sake of him being back and the matches that he had been putting on this year, I will buy it. But this was as cliche of a return as possible. I mean, like the DQ finish, let's not give him the title win yet, but we're just gonna, you know, give it to you in a couple weeks anyway. It had all the makings of a regular John Cena match against random heel inserted here. Heel hits same move that beat Cena 2 months ago, and he kicks out this time. Oh my god. The stable comes in to try to interfere. He kicks out. Oh my god. Like, it was as cliche of a return as ever. So the return itself, like, it was just, ugh. But I mean, Cena being back, I'm going to buy because I like what they've been doing with him the last number of months anyway, because he hasn't been near the belt, but he has yet still been valuable because he's been in some good matches. But I think that my hope is that 2016 John Cena, if he is going to wrestle Reigns for the title, because it just seems inevitable at some point between the time Reigns is champion, assumingly, and Rollins would return.
Not only is he going to wrestle him, he's going to wrestle him at 2 back-to-back WrestleManias. Watch it happen.
I wouldn't be that surprised, man. So there you go. But, like, with that impending, Cena needs to put him over. It has to start. This has to be the beginning of something where Cena is putting, not only is he losing matches, but he's losing effectively, and it is doing something to help elevate other people. Not Owens beats him clean and then Cena beats him 2 straight matches and then let's forget about Owens winning squeaky clean. No, like, this actually has to hold. So, squeaky. It was amazing. and don't get me wrong, it was awesome. But that needs to hold some fucking value going forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, he needs to lose more frequently. That needs to be a thing going forward. And it's been said a million times. I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody here feels that way, I would hope. But, you know, he just needs to start putting people over. That needs to be the thing. It's not his choice as much as it is obviously Vince and the writers and everything. But they need to start looking at, okay, Reigns is going to be our next big guy. We need to make sure that he is the guy after Cena. Like, we need to show that in these matches that they have. So that's what I really hope for Cena's return. So I'm buying the return, but, you know, like, I may end up selling that later if it's going to be the cliche way. I really hope that's not how it'll be in 2016. I hope this is going to be a time of change, because it is that time that these other guys have to start winning in matches against Cena. Cena doesn't have to lose every match. That's not what I'm saying. But he does need to lose more frequently, and they need to be valuable losses. He can't lose and then always come back and win. That's just, like, come on.
Our final buy or sell topic tonight will be Kevin Owens versus Neville. They had a match, and if you blinked, you probably missed it on Monday Night Raw, because Neville beat Kevin Owens in mere seconds. I don't even think the match went a minute long. And, you know, Neville, he's a big breakout superstar this year, and he was riding that wave of momentum with that slammy win into this match with Kevin Owens. And he not only beat Kevin Owens for the slammy, he beat Kevin Owens in this match as well. And then he got beat by Kevin Owens afterwards. He mopped the floor with his ass, and, you know, Dean Ambrose, he came out and intervened on Neville's behalf. Later on in the night, Kevin Owens actually powerbombed Dean Ambrose through a table. But all of this stuff happened because of that first moment where Neville actually beat Kevin Owens in just a few seconds. We actually had one of our PWF Empire colleagues, Lucas, at Monday Night Raw live, and he was kind of disappointed with the fact that he didn't get to see a longer Kevin Owens match, and a lot of people in the arena, they were disappointed as well. But does the perspective change when you're watching from TV, watching at home on TV? So I'm going to ask you all, buy or sell Neville beating Kevin Owens as quickly as he did?
Yeah, I think this was pretty good. I think it's somewhat damage control, right? Because Owens is losing a lot lately, so it's like they have to make an angle out of it, which is what they do when they book themselves into this corner. Like, if you lose a lot, then it turns into a losing angle, and then they sort of redeem it. But this actually worked because I don't think it made Owens look bad. He kind of lost in a fluke way. He lost via sort of a roll-up, right? It was reversal from the power bomb into sort of like a roll-up sort of move, right? So he didn't lose in a decisive beat down. It wasn't a squash match. It was just he got a lucky pin on him, and then Owens went apeshit, and he proved that he's the real psycho around here. It's not Ambrose. It's this guy who's such a hothead and has such a short temper. He's like the new Randy Orton, basically. He will just go fucking apeshit on you if he doesn't get his way. It's just what Orton used to do when he was a heel. And so I think this gave him a good opportunity to knock the crap out of two guys. And the way Neville flipped over when this guy clotheslined him was amazing. Like, it was really good. So for that moment alone, I think this was worth seeing. And the powerbomb through the tables looked really brutal too. And Ambrose looked like he was having a seizure. So it was sold that this guy is really brutal. He's a threat, and I think that put him over more than anything that could have happened if Owens just beat him. And Neville looks kind of crafty too after this.
You know, maybe Dean Ambrose needs to get beat up a little more, because he looked more unhinged while he was unconscious than he does anytime, while he's fully awake. So maybe that needs to happen a little bit more often. Maybe if he gets hit enough, he'll actually become the lunatic fringe. So yeah, I should keep it up, Kevin Owens. Like, if that's what you needed to do to get Dean Ambrose to be to the point where he's crazy, that's awesome. I'm buying the hell out of this, actually. Sometimes we do need wrestling matches to serve as, storyline fodder. That doesn't seem like the right word to use, but basically,
a catalyst.
Yeah, a catalyst for things to happen. And I like the fact how they, I like how they integrated the slammies into storylines and things like that, and using it as fuel to move forward on, because you never want to see something where it's like you spend all of this time on this one big event and then you don't mention it at all, and it doesn't mean anything to the everyday goings on in the WWE universe. And this actually means something. Like, you have these mounting issues with Kevin Owens. He lost the Intercontinental Championship. He lost to Slammy for Breakout Superstar. Then he lost to Neville on Monday Night Raw, and he's getting pissed off, and people are feeling his wrath. And I'm sitting back, and I see and I can feel the level of pissivity rising in Kevin Owens, and the higher it gets, the more entertaining he gets. And I loved every single thing that happened with all of these guys on Monday Night Raw. So if Kevin Owens getting beat in a few seconds is what needed to happen to make everything else after that happen, then yeah, I buy it.
Yep, I feel the exact same way, and this was good development for Owens to continue on. It makes sense. It gives him motivation. He has reason to be pissed off, and it's just another thing on his plate on top of the other things that are already upsetting him. So it just makes that much more sense. And not only that, but we also get to see the craftiness of Kevin Owens. I felt like this was good for his character. Because of the fact that after Ambrose's match, he comes in and ambushes him. They brawled a little bit. He fled the scene, kind of just puts his hands up and is like, yep, all right, I'm out of here. And then, blindsides Ambrose, throws him through the announce table. He's a badass. And Kevin Owens has that special feel. That's what makes Kevin Owens stand out and makes him feel like a real heel. And that's why he's fantastic. And I like that he lost the match fast. I understand that, if you're there live and Owens is one of your favorite guys to watch in the ring, and Owens and Neville are a great match, and we've seen some of that already with these two. So obviously, to a certain extent, like, from a fan's perspective of being there live, you're saying to yourself, damn it, I wanted to see these guys wrestle for 15 minutes. But when you look at it from the standpoint of a storyline and what Monday Night Raw should be doing, this is more what Raw should be doing than, you know, the long match. This did way more for Owens and for Ambrose and that Intercontinental Championship feud that they got going on, especially Owens, than it would have done if it was a lengthy match. So I actually like that it was quick in that way. And it's not a burial. That's not a burial because Owens ended up looking like a beast all night long. So that's why it was really effective. And honestly, it was probably a couple of the best segments of the entire night because it actually was productive and did something. You know, it actually gave me an idea. It not only does it give you an idea, it shows you who Kevin Owens is as a character. And that's something that we clearly don't get enough of. And I think Ambrose benefited from it as well. And I think Neville did too.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Owens, he did say something about that. He wasn't gonna stop until he put Dean Ambrose in an insane asylum. Like, he was gonna show him who's really crazy. So I look forward to seeing how Dean Ambrose is gonna respond to this also, because it's kind of like if Kevin Owens is operating on that very unhinged level, Dean Ambrose will have to go there, like follow him there to respond to it. So this could be the key to bringing Kevin Owens back to a level of prominence in WWE and also finally getting that legitimate lunatic to come out of Dean Ambrose. So good stuff all around. At this time, I am going to reveal to you all the nominees for Wrestler of the Year for the 2015 PWF Empire Year-End Awards. And there you go, the PWF Empire Year-End Awards. Our first nominee for Superstar of the Year is Brock Lesnar. You have John Cena, Seth Rollins. You also have Kazuchika Okada. And the final nominee for Superstar of the Year is Sasha Banks. And some things that you guys have to look forward to when it comes to Superstar of the or Wrestler of the Year, excuse me, and also the PW.
Damien Sandow?
Excuse me, where is he? I don't know. That's a weird time to ask that question. Does that have anything to do with Wrestler of the Year?
I was gonna vote for Sandow. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I remember you and your little Sandow thing. Yeah. You cost PWF Empire Live the damn Family Feud game. But yeah, so those are our nominees for Wrestler of the Year, and we will have a special episode of PWF Empire Anarchy coming up this week. We don't have a set day or time currently, but if you follow me on Twitter at PWF Empire, you will find out exactly when it is that we are going to be doing this show. And yeah, it's basically going to be a nomination special where we rate and debate Wrestler of the Year, Match of the Year, Feud of the Year, a few more of those topics we're going to be discussing on the show. And I'm going to be joined by the guys from the PWTR RAW post show. And yeah, I can tell you guys already, because we've had a few discussions off air, this is going to be some good stuff because there is a ton of disagreement, specifically based off of these 5 people that you see right here and just knowing who is going to be voted as a Wrestler of the Year. So yeah, a lot of good stuff coming your way, guys. Hopefully you are all in tune on everything that is going on. It's going to be great times. And just going back and looking at everything that has happened in 2015, this is going to be great because we've had a lot of great matches this year, a lot of great moments, and reliving all of those things. I think it's going to turn out well. And speaking of things that turned out well, I'm not a movie guy. I'm a big TV guy. I love watching TV, and I don't go to see many movies, but there was a movie that my co-host here, Steven, recommended that I go see, and this movie was Creed. It's a spinoff of the Rocky series. If you're familiar with Rocky, well, if you're not familiar with Rocky, it's a series of movie's about a boxer from Philadelphia and, you know, the trials and tribulations that come along with that. And they have a spinoff starring Michael B. Jordan as Creed. He's the son of one of Rocky's, was he like a friend or foe or both? I don't.
Well, you should have watched the originals, but Apollo Creed was his original rival in the first two movies, and he's sort of gained his respect after that.
Okay, so the reason why we're talking about this is because this, like, my original idea for PWF Empire Live was to use this as a platform for fans to express their creativity when it comes to professional wrestling. And Steven has taken me up on that task many times, and he's going to take me up on that task once again because he saw the movie Creed, and he saw a lot of parallels between that and professional wrestling. So we're going to explore those right now. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Steven and go ahead and take it away. And before I do, though, you don't have to have seen the movie to, like, participate in this discussion or know what's going on, do you?
I don't think so. And,
okay, so
I guess
take it away.
There will be spoilers, right? Are we going to do a spoiler-free? I don't think anyone who... There's not much to spoil anyway in this movie. It's kind of
There's one big thing that, like, you know...
If I know what you're thinking about, I'm probably not going to mention it anyway. So,
okay.
Right, so when I saw this movie, I came out thinking, wow, Sylvester Stallone just built a better top babyface in 2 hours than WWE did in 2 years in Roman Reigns, because they had the same task that WWE is in right now, is they got to establish a new star, because Sylvester Stallone is old now. He can't be the star anymore. He can't box. He can't pretend box, and even if he did, it would be unbelievable. It would be stupid. You could get away with that in wrestling, where you have The Undertaker at 50 and 60 wrestling, but you can't really do it in a realistic boxing franchise like Rocky. So if they want to continue the series, which they do, it seems, because it's a very lucrative series, and it's a very successful series that continues to pump out decent movies, even the less quality ones are still pretty good. So they're tasked with the same thing that WWE is when John Cena is on his way out as the top babyface, which is to establish a new top star. And so they chose to go with the son of Apollo Creed, who is Adonis Creed, who is sort of, he becomes Rocky's new protege. And the parallel to that, of course, is Roman Reigns. And now what I noticed here is that by the end of the movie, you felt like Adonis Creed gained what he earned. So he doesn't climb off a ladder. He sort of shoots directly to the top, not out of some BS. Just sort of it makes sense the way he does it, because it's sort of parallel to the original Rocky series, where there's sort of a gimmick where the world champion is going to take on a newcomer, and in this case, they find out that this is Apollo Creed's son, so they're interested in having him face the world champion, who sees this as a big money match because it's the name value of the Creed name, but it's also an easy match. The top heel, if you want to call him that, thinks he could just steamroll this guy. So he gets to the top in a way that makes sense, and he has a proper motivation. You know who this guy is. He's not a big, strong guy. He doesn't have an inconsistent sort of character. He's a guy who grew up without a father. He has a lot of repressed anger. He has a lot of violence in him from the atmosphere that he grew up in. And he's living on the legacy of his father, who he never met, who was a world-famous boxer. And he wants to go into boxing, but he doesn't want to use the name of Creed to launch his career, because he's afraid that if he doesn't succeed, then he's gonna disappoint everyone. And so you have a clear motivation. You know who this guy is. There's a romance subplot, which I thought was kind of unnecessary, but it was also in the original Rocky, so I'm not gonna bash on that too hard. So you know who this guy is. And the parallel would be, I still really don't know who Roman Reigns is. I don't know what his motivation is. I got a glimpse of it when he went up against Brock Lesnar, when Paul Heyman sort of brought up his legacy, and there's another parallel there where Reigns has a legacy to fill too. It's not like his father was the best ever, but he has relatives in the business who have accomplished great things, especially The Rock. So he has a similar dilemma. He has to live up to this legacy that he can't possibly fulfill from all the hype that one would place in someone with his name. And the thing that struck me is when this guy, Creed, this is the spoiler part, so if you really care, you should skip this part. When he gets to the end, he doesn't win. He takes him to the limit, but he still loses. And I thought that's how you get a top babyface over, is you make him look strong, but you don't make the audience insulted by saying this guy, who is a relative newbie, can just take on the world champion and win. So that's sort of my piece about that. What did you think of it, Jay?
You see, the way that you're laying that out there right now, I'm wondering where you think WWE went wrong in capturing that same magic that you saw in Creed, to where this guy, he attempted to go for the Holy Grail, and he ended up failing because, I guess, like that same kind of story was told with Roman Reigns leading into WrestleMania this year, because he went after the champion and Brock Lesnar, he did not get it. So my question to you would be, where do you think they went wrong in that process? Like, what didn't they do to signify, like, okay, this guy is made right now?
They didn't respect the fans. Basically, they pushed this guy too hard, and they did it at the worst time in the worst way when Daniel Bryan was around. They didn't respect the fans' integrity. And one crucial difference is that Roman Reigns didn't lose to Brock Lesnar clean. He got sideswiped by Seth Rollins. So this wasn't a fair fight between Brock and Reigns, where he loses. And this is what I originally wanted, because I was thinking of the Rocky movies when I saw this fight between Reigns and Lesnar. And I was thinking, if they really want to get Reigns over, they have to make him look strong but still lose, because that's a respectable loss. And then next year you can have him win, just like Rocky does in the original movies. And just like I'm assuming is going to happen with Creed, because it's sort of a parallel there. So I think that they didn't. Also, another thing is, I'm pretty sure they planned to have Reigns win, which is something we all knew. We knew that Reigns was going to beat Lesnar, and the only reason he didn't was a combination of things. One was that Reigns was getting booed to hell, and they had to do some damage control. And second, Lesnar just re-signed a contract, so you kind of had to capitalize on that momentum. So we all knew Reigns was going to win. He didn't win, but he lost in a way that's sort of cheap. It didn't feel like he lost in any way that had integrity. He lost because he got cheated by an unrelated guy who was Seth Rollins. So that's a major difference, I think. Second is, they never defined who Reigns was. They spent a good deal of this movie telling you who Adonis Creed is, and they do it in a way that he's not overshadowed by either Rocky or his father. The movie's about him. It's not about Rocky, even though Rocky is a major part of it. But when you have Reigns, you just feel like you're kind of watching... You're not watching the development of a character. You're watching creative say, okay, we've got to get this guy over, so let's make him the next John Cena almost. Like, that's how it looked to everyone when Reigns was climbing to the top. And that's why everyone reacted to it so poorly. So I think that was the major difference. It was artificial. It didn't respect the fans, and it didn't take any time. They didn't take any time to show the audience who Reigns is, why you should care about him, and they didn't give him any consistent character. So that's what I think went wrong.
So if they could possibly borrow something from the movies and like in your creative mind, have they missed the boat on attempting to do that with Roman Reigns, or could it be done now? And if it could,
I think
what
did miss
next
the
step
boat.
do they take?
They could still recover him in a different way, which is what they're doing, but they missed the boat to make him truly great. Like, this is just like a damage control, make him passable as a top heel, as a top face, because look, he's fighting the League of Nations. If he was a great top face, he'd be fighting Brock Lesnar, which he probably still will, but he wouldn't be up against these chumps. He'd be up against a heel who is a top heel. He'd probably be up against Dean Ambrose, and I'm pretty sure the only reason why Dean Ambrose didn't turn heel is because they knew if they did that, Reigns would be shit out of luck, because people would just be cheering Ambrose over him. So, yeah, they missed the boat in that regard. They're doing damage control, and they might succeed. I think they will succeed, but it's not like they can go back and have him almost get there in a way that has integrity, because he already lost to all these people, and he's already suffered all these losses. And we're in the stage now where he's the champion, and the time for making him look respectable but fail is over now, because they missed that boat. Now they just got to make him look full-on strong, which is what they're doing.
And I think that has something to do with why we saw him ultimately beat Sheamus a couple of weeks ago. I saw multiple people say it, and I felt the same way. Like, he's failed enough already. Like, this is it. He has to win here.
Yeah.
Like, he's already failed enough times.
There's a time for failure, and they gave him too much failure in the wrong way. Like,
Exactly.
He never failed with any integrity. He just failed because people just screwed him out of things. You never felt like Reigns was good, but he wasn't good yet. It wasn't great yet, rather. Because that's a respectable thing when you're climbing up the ladder. It's respectable to lose to the champion if you're not the champion. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And
it's like that Jeff Hardy Undertaker moment when Hardy gives him a great fight and he like shows him respect after from years ago. Like, that was one of those moments where it was like we saw some of the greatness of Jeff Hardy, but he was good, but not that good yet, you know. It was that type of thing.
Yeah, and it gives him room to grow. And the same thing with Rocky and the same thing with Creed is they both had the same sort of finish in their first fight against the champion, which is they take him to the limit, but they don't win. And that gives you room because next time you want to see him win. And Rocky does win the second time. And I don't know who Creed's going to fight in the second movie when they make one. I don't think it's going to be the same dude. But I'm sure he's going to win the world title in the next movie just because that's... There's a thing with these Rocky movies that makes you realize, well, it's not hard to book a fighting show because people don't necessarily need surprises. They just need they need to be respected, and it needs to make sense because we all know how it's going to go. We know that in the next movie Creed's going to win. And I don't think anyone cares because it's going to be nice. It's going to feel earned. It's going to feel good. But when it comes to WWE, it's like you need all these twists, you need all these turns, and it's actually a very simple formula. And the Rocky's been doing it for every movie. It's been successful every time.
Yeah, and like just going back to that phrase that you use, failing with integrity. Man, that was like an aha moment. You know, those Oprah aha moments for me. That's a very loaded phrase there, and I completely understand where you're coming from. And like I'm picking up on so many different themes here because talking about how you know that he's going to win in the next movie and things like that, that just goes to show that when people talk about, oh, this is predictable, that is predictable, that really doesn't matter. It's all about the journey that you go
really
on.
Doesn't
and
matter.
yeah, and you being able, like someone being able to pull you in and have you be invested in the story that is being told. And I think one of the reasons why WWE doesn't really do that these days is because they're fighting their natural inclination to be seen as like they're fighting their natural inclinations for matches to be seen as fights, and that's something that needs to happen more often. And I think WWE is in a stage right now where they need to start borrowing from these different elements because there are so many things that exist today that have borrowed from professional wrestling, like UFC and things like that. Like, I think WWE is at a point right now where they need to start borrowing elements on ways to, you know, tell fight stories from UFC, from stuff like Creed and Rocky and things like that, because these are universal themes that all you have to do is put your own little special twist on it and kind of like bring it into the world of wrestling and make it work for you. But it's not impossible. Like, all you have to do is stop fighting the inclination to make these things fights. And sometimes, you know, realize, hey, people fail, and that's it. WWE, they do this thing where they book themselves into corners, and they try to find a million different ways of how we can lessen the impact of what's happening. But sometimes you need that impact. Sometimes, somebody fails, and they have to be mired, like they have to be surrounded in that failure. Like, that's a story there, and it's okay to tell that story sometimes.
Success and failure, because if you fail at beating the world champion, but you're in a fight with the world champion, that's not a failure. That's actually a success. it's a failure relative to the world champion because he's still better than you, but it's still a huge success. And the thing with Rocky is it doesn't insult you by saying, and this is something that I felt when I watched Rocky for the first time like 2 years ago, which I'm late to the boat, but you're even later, so there's nothing you can say about that.
Hey, you haven't watched The Wire yet. You don't.
Well, okay. Yeah, but Rocky is more timeless than The Wire, according to people. I don't know. The Wire is probably better, just because I've heard that's amazing. But anyway, when I first watched Rocky, I remember thinking this guy's gonna beat Apollo Creed. It's gonna be kind of dumb because this is like his first professional fight. He's up against the world champion. He's a nobody, and he actually doesn't win. I'm like, wow, I was actually surprised by that. Like, he doesn't beat the champion, and I respected that so much, and I respected it again when it happened in Creed, even though it was kind of obvious. But like with WWE, he would have just won. Like, that just would have been it. Like, if you commit to being, this is your guy, of course he's gonna beat the champion. Like, why wouldn't he?
Yeah, that's one of the keys to business too, I think, is always like WWE as a business, that it is their key to learn from some of these other areas that have actually learned from them in the first place. Like, they were the basis for so many other people, and yet now they can look at those. Like, again, the best way to succeed in business is to look at the competition. Like, you can't always just outdo your competition. Sometimes you have to borrow from that competition and then do it better. You got to take what that competition does and then just make it your own and do it better than they do it. And that's how you can succeed sometimes. And I think WWE can really benefit from that. They really need to continue to evolve, but yet still go back to the roots sometimes. Remember what brought you to the dance in the first place. Remember what got you to the popularity that you've had over the last 35 years, but also be willing to evolve. And I think that's WWE's problem, is like they're on the opposite ends of both of those things. They want to go away from their roots, and yet they don't want to evolve either. So it's like you're going to be stuck in a standstill, and like Jay put, you're going to book yourself in corners, and that's what they really are stuck with. And that's why earlier, when I was saying that Roman Reigns' progress gets impeded by the lack of good enemies that he has to face, holds so much weight. Because if he does have good enemies, if he does have good adversaries to have faced along the way, like a Brock Lesnar, who he did face, and that match at WrestleMania was awesome, and Seth Rollins' cash-in was awesome too, but actually it did hurt Roman Reigns because of the fact that he ended up being the odd man out here. Seth Rollins wins the belt in an awesome way, but the match that Reigns and Lesnar had was actually really good, and it actually had kind of a Rocky type of story. Like, Reigns fought back every time.
It did, yeah.
It did.
That's one of the reasons why I really liked that match. And I wish
exactly.
it ended in this similar fashion.
And it felt like an all-out fight. Like, there was blood. It was all out. It was all out. It felt like a true brawl, and that's what made it a main event. It felt like a world title, heavyweight title, main event type of wrestling match, and that's what made that match so good. But Seth Rollins' cash-in, I can't lie. I can't say that wasn't an awesome moment, and I didn't love it. I did. But, like, when you look back long term, you do have to say, like, man, that was actually more of a roadblock for Roman Reigns than anything else overall. Especially when you end up following it up with a Seth Rollins title run that was, not good. So it's really like, you look back on some of these things and you say, man, that was actually an example of them booking themselves into a corner without any of us really looking at it that way at the time, because it was a cool moment. But see, that's how, again, they can give you the flash and dance and you can just say, oh, that's cool, and you don't even realize at that moment that that's actually detrimental. So not every big good impact moment is always good either. So there's like two sides to that argument of like the impact. Those things can be so beneficial, and they can also be detrimental in another way long term. So it's like, that's why every decision that they make needs to be carefully looked at and actually planned out long term, rather than just knee-jerk reactions and quick little things that they just throw out there at you, and then they don't really think about what they want to do 2, 3 months, 6 months down the road. But I mean, I think Roman Reigns is recovering now. Like, this is his recovery. Actually, him winning the title is basically the beginning of his recovery. Him winning over Triple H and having a good reign with it will be what truly gets him to that next level. But like, it's funny how all these months later he's really still feeling those effects of all those losses that really the continued failure that actually didn't do much for him, but basically push him in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say, going off of what you said that he needs a good antagonist. That's another thing that these movies always do right. Even though the Rocky movies, one of their flaws is that they never hype up the villain really. They usually don't have any spotlight on the enemy fighter at all. They maybe show one or two scenes and then there's a fight. But still, the fighter who he's fighting is always presented, booked, I would say, almost, because it's a wrestling show. That's what Rocky is. They're booked really strong. Like the guy who Creed goes up against looks like a beast, and he's not a joke. He's not Sheamus. He's not a jobber, right? You feel like when Creed takes this guy to the limit, he's actually accomplished something. It's not like he just squashed some nobody who happened to have the belt. Like, you really felt like he was fighting the world champion, like the best of the best at the time. So that's another thing that really helps.
All right, this is a very interesting conversation to have. Just like the different types of inspirations that you can find in different themes and parallels between wrestling and other things that exist in pop culture. So yeah, just recommend the movie to you guys. If you haven't seen Creed yet, I highly suggest you guys go check that movie out. It's really awesome. And we're going to be doing something similar that we just did with this Creed in relation to wrestling next week with Star Wars The Force Awakens. I think all of us have seen that movie. A lot of people out there, you have seen that too. And we're going to attempt to do the same thing with that one next week. But for right now, we're going to move on to our push, repackage, release segment. This one has an interesting twist to it because this is going to be our special injured reserve push, repackage, release. And the people that are going to be featured in this one, let's go ahead and find out who they are going to be. Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, and Randy Orton. So the purpose of push, repackage, release is to rank wrestlers based off of their individual attributes, and you're going to be comparing them to each other, and you have to put them in the position of push, repackage, release. So with all of these guys being injured, the way that we're going to set this one up is, if you are the booker, you're the owner of a show, owner of a promotion, and Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, and Daniel Bryan come to you and they say, we're all ready to go. We're all healed up. We're all cleared. But you only have so many spots to fill. You have to push one, you have to repackage one, and you have to release the other. So, with that dilemma on your hands, Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, push, repackage, release.
Oh, this is the easy one. Yeah, so it's release Randy, push Bryan, and repackage Rollins. Yeah, it's not like that I don't like Randy, but he's done everything. He's done everything. There's nothing left for this guy. And he's still great. He's still one of the best. But there's very little he can do at this point. He's been around for so long. And he's been in every role. He's been in the top role. He's been a heel. He's been a face. And it's just starting to feel like when he's gone, I don't really miss him. It's not like I'm waiting for Orton to come back. It's just like, well, he looks like Orton's out again. And then he's back. Oh, looks like Orton's back again.
He's the less vital John Cena.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really don't want to understate how good Orton is. Like, he's one of the best.
He is good.
World. He's really good. When he's on the top of his game, he's the best, I think. But yeah, it's just like, what can you do with him at this point? He's been through so much.
Yeah, I'm with you. And honestly, it's rare that we have the same exact order, but I'd put it in the same spot. Push Bryan, repackage Rollins, and release Orton. And again, I'm going to push Bryan because he already is so over, is so perfect in the way that he is, the character that he has had. It's something that everyone loves, and that's a guy that you can push instantly back into the spotlight. Again, let's take off the oh, well, he might get hurt again. Oh, this, oh, that. We're just saying,
hell, they're all hurt right now.
Right, exactly.
All of them could get hurt again.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody can get hurt anytime. It's pro wrestling, damn it. So, let's just take the injury prone or any of the rest of it off. Let's just assume they're coming back from an injury. I'm going to say Daniel Bryan, like, right now is ready, the most ready to be pushed because he's still a big deal and people still, will react heavily to it. They're still chanting, yes, they did on Raw this week. They were chanting Daniel Bryan in the opening segment of Raw. So obviously they still love this guy, whether it was a weird crowd or not. there's still a huge amount of people who love Daniel Bryan, and even if he's somebody that there is, because there's obviously people who dislike Daniel Bryan, even for those people, it would still be somebody that they would cheer against, and they still have a reaction. There's still some reason to watch it. People always watch Daniel Bryan matches, whether they love him or not. They still love to watch his matches, whether they like seeing him get beat up or whether they like seeing him triumph. And but yeah, repackage Seth Rollins because he's so good. Arguably the best there is, arguably the best there's gonna be in the next several years. I truly feel he is so damn talented. The way that his character was before getting hurt was not good. I really want him to come back as a babyface, and that's still, like, if I was playing the Booker and repackaging him, he would come back as a babyface, and I think he would be excellent in that role. I just want to see consistency with Seth Rollins, no matter what it is. Even if he is going to come back, even if I would have him come back as a heel, I still want consistency. Make the guy feel legit, because he is legit. You just have to actually, go to that. You got to make that feel like it's actually a true statement. You got to show us, not just tell us. And yeah, releasing Orton, it's not exactly easy, because I think he can still put on great matches with, insert person here. I still want to see Orton versus Lesnar. I still want to see Orton and Owens in a feud. I want to see all these different things. But out of these three, he is, again, it usually comes down to, for me, the least common denominator out of the three. Like, he has done so much. He has already been there for so long. It's like there's so much more that I think Bryan and Rollins can offer, that's why he would end up being the one to be let go. Because I still think Orton is valuable coming off a return, though.
So what I attempt to do with push, repackage, release is find one person that I can anchor the entire thing around. I look at the three people, I look at the three different positions, and I find that one person that I have to have in one of those specific positions, and I build the other two guys around that one person. With this edition of Push, Repackage, Release, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, and Seth Rollins, my anchor is Daniel Bryan. I am going to slide Daniel Bryan into the spot of repackage, because something that has always been interesting to me about Daniel Bryan, his in-ring persona and the person that Daniel Bryan is, or the characters that he has played in WWE, they are both at the opposite ends of the spectrum. We've seen Daniel Bryan play very funny characters. When in Team Hell No, we've seen him be the goofy guy, and no matter where Daniel Bryan is, he's always that affable hero. He's always that shucks type, that Goku type guy, where it's like he's like very affable, but like dangerous also. I would like to see Daniel Bryan's in-ring persona be mirrored in the person that he is, like the character that he plays. So as dangerous and as intense as he is in the ring, I would repackage him to make those two things line up more perfectly, because you have people in WWE, like, if they needed to slot in a sympathetic baby face, you have people like Sami Zayn, and not saying that Bayley could go for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, but still, you have that spot being filled on the roster in whatever avenue she takes. So my anchor here is repackaging Daniel Bryan. Now, this one is tough, because we have Randy Orton and Seth Rollins, and I like both guys. They're highly talented. But here's the thing: I'm not releasing Randy Orton, and there's more for me to go on based off of the Randy Orton that I've seen in 2015 for a push than there is Seth Rollins, because I think since when Randy Orton came back from, I think he was like filming a movie or something like that, that guy was red hot. I remember him roasting the hell out of the Authority, and just, I've said it before, I'll say it again, when Randy Orton is at his best, he is the best. I fucking love Randy Orton, and I think, like I said, there's enough in the year 2015 for me to say that guy gets the push for me over Seth Rollins. And when it comes down to Seth Rollins and getting the release, it's solely based off of the trash-ass booking that he's had in the year 2015. And that's just the way that it goes. You can talk all you want about the guy's in-ring ability, but WWE has done so much to invalidate it at every single turn in nearly every single feud that he's had in this year. And when it comes down to him and Randy Orton, he's edged out, unfortunately. But there you go, push, repackage, release. I would love to know what you guys think about this edition. Randy Orton, Daniel Bryan, and Seth Rollins. And I know folks are talking. See, we already knew. No, people are saying they already knew I was gonna. You didn't know that. I like Seth Rollins, and if I had to,
I had no idea. I'm in shock. I think
I'm surprised as well. Actually,
I don't even believe you.
What do you mean you don't believe? I already told you. Like I always do this with push, repackage, release. I find one person to anchor everything around, and it's like when you get into a situation where it's like push Seth Rollins or Randy Orton. I can't push Seth Rollins, and I'm more interested in the repackage.
That's what the repackage.
No, Daniel Bryan is the repackage.
How do you repackage Daniel Bryan? He's as over as he's ever gonna be. Like, there's nowhere. Anyway,
because I want to see something different. I'm not necessarily saying I'm tired of the sympathetic babyface, but I think Daniel Bryan is he can do more than that. Like he's a Teflon Don. They've thrown so much shit at him, and it's bounced off, and he's came out on the other side, in a great position. And I'm just interested to see if he has the chops to pull this off.
To me, I just feel like Rollins has so much youth still. Like, he's so young. You can do so much with him still. Like, there's so much time on the table left for Seth Rollins. That's why it's like I can't release him. You know, like, just he's there's so much you can still do with that guy. I don't know. Like, Orton's been there, done that. Seth Rollins, no. And I still think he can reach levels that he hasn't yet. That's why it's like it's impossible to release him.
I understand that. I get it, but just has to happen sometimes. I don't think there's ever been one time where I've gleefully released anyone. So yeah,
I've gleefully released some people.
Oh my.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh,
you know what? Perfect time to end the show here. Yeah. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to PWF Empire Live. Hopefully you join us next week on the show. And remember, follow me on Twitter at PWF Empire. Right down there. You can just type that in on Twitter and my account will pop up. I'll be letting you guys know when that special episode of Anarchy is going to air, where you can join me and the guys from the PWTR Raw Post Show, where we discuss the nominations for the 2015 PWF Empire Year-End Awards. Until then, we'll catch you later. Peace.